Good afternoon, everyone. I'm meteorologist John Wendel. Here's the latest on Hurricane Irma, making a very close call to Marco Island and then Naples and then toward the Fort Myer area. This will be my last update. Brad will be in this afternoon, starting around, say, 4 o'clock or so, and he'll bring you the next update after that. But first of all, let's go to the graphics here, and you can see winds still at 130 miles an hour. This is the 1 p.m. update. The new update will come in at 2 o'clock, and right now I don't see much change. We do have that northerly movement at about 9 miles per hour. But take a look at the track here. We go through time, and it continues to go up along the west coast of Florida. So let me do something here and go right back to where we started. And you can see here by 7 p.m., winds should be down just a little bit, 125, but that's not down very much. And as you can see, where it is now, moving toward Marco Island, Bonita Springs, and then toward Fort Myer. Really interesting here is because it stays a very strong storm. And then we go through time, and it goes right up through Tampa, and then eventually up here toward the northern portion of Florida here. Winds up to 90 miles an hour, down to 90 miles an hour. So it is starting to weaken with the effects of the land there. And then as we go through time, moving into Georgia, it becomes more of a tropical storm by Monday evening. And then after that, Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, even into Thursday morning, it's still out through parts of Tennessee and into Georgia. But where's the storm located right now on the radar? And this is really to the whole story. It made landfall down here by Key West, or just to the east of Key West, over between Key West and, say, Marathon. And it had winds of 130 miles an hour as it did so. But now, we'll zoom in, and you could see the movement is north and maybe a little northwest. Well, there's Marco Island. Here's the eye wall, and that's heading right there. And that's probably where we're seeing the winds of 130 miles an hour. And the storm surge with that is expected to be up there around 15 feet, 10 to 15 feet. So that's also going to be a problem. You can see all these little notches there. That focuses where the water goes. And as that water builds up, you're going to have some very high storm surges. Then you go to Naples, and then Bonita Springs, and then there's the Fort Myer area. So as you can see, that center is moving up that direction. But the thing about this is you have the winds blowing from land off into the water. That's ahead of the storm. Now, once you get behind the storm, the winds come from water back onto land. And so what's going to happen there for Fort Myer, and also once it gets up to Tampa, after the storm system passes, you could see your highest storm surge. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens as the storm system moves right along the coast there. Looking at the big picture here, you can see the rain from the system goes all the way far north as Jacksonville, Savannah, Georgia, Brunswick, almost into South Carolina, around the really edge there. That's a pretty large area of rain as it moves up to the north. So how much rain is expected? We're looking at anywhere through Florida, possibly 8, 10, 12 inches of rain, with some spots as much as 20 inches. Up here in Charlotte, I think we start to see some of the rain starting around, sometime later afternoon into the evening. But overnight, Monday night into Tuesday is when we could see some of our heavier rain. 1 to maybe 3 inches, possibly up to 4 in some spots. But I think a 1 to 3 inch range is probably better for us. And wind-wise, I think we're going to see some winds fairly strong as we go later tomorrow, but nothing like they're seeing down to the south. As a matter of fact, these are wind gusts of what you're seeing here. And this is Monday night into Tuesday midnight, and we're seeing gusts up around 37 miles an hour, meaning the sustained winds, I'm thinking 15, 25, 30. But the gusts could be higher than that, and the gusts up in the mountains will be higher than that as well. So some isolated trees down will probably be our biggest issue there, but anytime you have a tree down, you're probably seeing some power lines down. So isolated power lines down, isolated trees down because of those strong winds, and the tornado threat is always there whenever you have this tropical system. All right, let's go to some of the questions that you have. No questions? That's good. If you have any questions, send them in. I'll see what I could do of answering some of that. This is kind of interesting here. We do have tropical storm warnings as far north as Atlanta. That's incredible. And you have tropical storm watches out right up to the Tennessee border. This also has tropical storm warnings out for the Charleston area. So Atlanta to Charleston and under tropical storm force winds, meaning that they should have winds up around 39 miles per hour or stronger in those areas. As you can see, Charlotte to Columbia, we don't have any of that. Also here, we have flood watches out for a good portion of, well, pretty much all of Georgia, the southern half of South Carolina. That's where we're expecting some of the heavier rain. But we don't have those in effect for the Charlotte area, once again, because we're thinking maybe 1, 2, 3 inches of rain. Wind advisory out for Cleveland County to the west and to the south. Did you get any questions here? All right, go right ahead.
Is there any possibility of it turning east? I know.
None of the models have. The question was, is there any chances that the storm could turn east? And right now, there has been really no models indicating. They've been very consistent on bringing bringing the storm right along the coast and edging it back to the west. And as a matter of fact, if you look back from 2 days ago until today, the track has always been shifting more and more west and west and west. So if it goes east, that would be a real big change from what it's been saying on the trends there.
And then how far north is it expected to go?
Well, all right, let me go back here to the track. And there it is down toward Marco Island. But the track takes it up along the coast of Florida, then into the southeastern portion of Georgia, and then into Alabama. And then you have western Tennessee, and then eventually into parts of Georgia and maybe even Indiana, which is, an interesting ride for a storm. But, this one's been so strong, I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that. But it kind of goes around the Charlotte area. But how long does it stay a hurricane before it becomes a tropical storm? I think once it crosses the border into Georgia, you're going to start to see that changeover between hurricane and tropical storm. But southern part of Georgia is still very strong with those tropical storm force winds. Okay, good. The other one thing I want to bring up, there's 2 things I want to bring up. Actually 3. Okay, this is Hurricane Jose. And, we've been talking about Irma. But what about Jose? Jose's hitting some of the islands that were hit earlier with Irma. Well, now take a look at this storm. Very strong storm, Category 4 storm. But watch the motion. Motion is to the northwest. Okay, it's still out in the middle of the Atlantic there. And then it starts to work its way back to the east, not south. And it really makes a big loop out there. And that's what's really interesting to me, is it makes a big loop out in the Atlantic. And by, let's see, this would be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That loop has it actually moving back toward the United States over a long period of time. So can't rule out Jose yet. Until it finally gets in an easterly track and out of here, I won't discount that. But because it's looping out there, you just never know. Okay, the other thing I want to point out is the timing of the storm. This is for the Charlotte area. Maybe as much as 4 inches of rain, localized flooding possible. It starts later Monday and into Tuesday morning. And again, I think more of the 1 to 2, possibly 3 inch range would be more like it for us. Winds 15 to 30, but a gust up to 40 can't be ruled out. And with saturated ground and with those strong winds, some trees down, some limbs down, power outages are a possibility. I just don't think it's going to be widespread. And when the heavier lines of rain come through overnight, Monday night, an isolated tornado or 2 is still possible when that happens. So that's what we're thinking about here. That's what we're thinking about down through Florida. But right now, just one more time, I just want to go back to where the center is right now. And you can see the eye there. There's Naples. We could zoom in just a little bit. And there's Marco Island. And as you can see, that storm, the center of that storm, that eye wall is not very far from Marco Island. As a matter of fact, let's see here. Marco Island down to the eye wall is only about 20 miles or so. The Marco Island down to the eye is probably about 25 miles or so. So it's not very far away, and moving it about 7 miles an hour, that's not going to take very long to get there. So being 115, 120 now, you're probably talking 3, 4 o'clock that it's getting the hardest hit with that eye wall up toward Marco Island, then toward Naples, and then eventually up toward the Fort Myer area. So thanks for watching. We will have more information. Brad will be in here this afternoon, this evening, keep you posted on what's going on. So we appreciate you watching, and have a great day, all right?